Twitter has found no substantial evidence of Russian interference during the UK's 2016 Brexit referendum. The findings have left those looking into alleged Russian meddling angered and pushing for a further investigation. This is how the conversation went between Twitter and the head of the inquiry.
We found that 1% of the accounts in the dataset were registered in Russia.
Could you confirm how many other accounts were being controlled from agencies in Russia, even if they were not registered there?
We do not have sufficiently strong evidence to enable us to conclusively link them with Russia.
The failure to obtain straight answers is simply increasing concerns about these issues rather than reassuring people.
Well, the British government isn't happy with the facts that Twitter has provided for them. And the thrust of Twitter's message is that 1% of accounts that have been identified as sort of meddling in the EU referendum are registered in Russia. And this all started when questions were raised late last year about whether Russia had perhaps interfered in that EU referendum. And the problem was that there was no proof to back up these claims of Russian interference online and through social media platforms. Take a listen to what the Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson had to say about alleged Russian meddling.
I haven't seen any evidence of that.
You seem uncertain about whether you've seen it or you haven't.
No,
is this another of your confirm or can't confirm?
I can confirm to you, Mr. Bryant, that I don't think I've got.
Mr. McDonald has written
no.
So you don't think
no, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen not a sausage yet.
So with no facts and no evidence, this was a topic that had still really snowballed into public consciousness. It had drawn a lot of column inches and everybody very interested in it. So the government launched an official inquiry into fake news, and they asked the big social media platforms, Twitter and Facebook, to provide evidence to them late last year. When Twitter and Facebook came back to them, the government said they weren't happy with what they had come back with. They accused Twitter of stonewalling them and even threatened them with sanctions if they didn't cooperate properly.
Another social media platform, Facebook, has agreed to dig deeper in an attempt to find Russia links to Brexit. Their initial results show that less than £1 was spent on ads that may have affected voting. Author and journalist Max Blumenthal thinks the Russian fever doesn't need real evidence to cause impact.
This whole saga of Russiagate, it really represents an attempt to export Russiagate to other countries. During the run-up to the Brexit vote, we heard nothing about Russian influence, but once Russiagate exploded in Washington, opponents of Brexit seized on the concept of Russian meddling. It gets enough toxicity in the political bloodstream that it damages their opponents and they don't have time to push back. And by the time they disprove the narrative, the damage is already done.